Zara's hands trembled as she held the piece of stale cake, the dry texture crumbling between her fingers. The sour smell of expired dough cut through the pantry air while her stomach growled, a brutal reminder that she hadn't eaten in 2 days. The mansion's kitchen was a palace of marble and gold, but for her it was a prison where every crumb had to be earned. "Are you eating garbage now?" Mrs. Park's voice sliced through the silence like a frozen blade. The entire kitchen staff froze, silent witnesses to yet another humiliation. A starving maid. How pathetic. My husband would be disgusted if he knew I hired someone so desperate. It was at that exact moment that Zara heard it, the unmistakable sound of a phone call being cancelled, the echo of heavy footsteps descending the staircase. The Korean Mafia Boss, Tae-jin, had just cancelled his business dinner, and for the first time in months, he was heading straight to the kitchen. If you want to discover how this explosive confrontation began and what happened next, subscribe to the channel and leave us in the comments where you're watching from. Each view helps bring more stories like this. Now let's go back to where it all started, 3 weeks before. Zara Kim stood outside County General Hospital in downtown Los Angeles, staring at the invoice in her hands. $23,000. The experimental immunotherapy treatment her mother needed cost $23,000 every 8 weeks, and insurance had denied the claim for the 3rd time. Not medically necessary, they called it, as if stage 4 breast cancer spreading to her mother's bones wasn't necessary enough. At 24 years old, Zara had already buried her father, dropped out of the Culinary Institute after 18 months of training, and cobbled together 3 jobs that barely kept the lights on in their Echo Park apartment. She worked breakfast shift at a diner in Koreatown, prep cook at Chez Louis in Hollywood 3 nights a week, and weekend catering gigs when she could get them. 16-hour days, 6 days a week. Her hands were permanently raw from industrial soap and hot water. Her back ached constantly. And it still wasn't enough. Her 15-year-old brother Marcus appeared beside her, skateboard under one arm, his young face trying hard to look brave. "Mom's asking for you. They're moving her to the recovery ward." Zara folded the invoice and shoved it deep in her jacket pocket. "How does she look?" "Tired, but she smiled when she saw me." His voice cracked slightly. "Zara, what are we going to do? We can't pay this." "We'll figure it out, we always do." The lie tasted bitter. They were drowning, had been drowning for 2 years. The eviction notice sitting on their kitchen table gave them 14 days. Her last paycheck from the diner had bounced, and now this, $23,000 they'd never have. Inside, her mother looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, her rich brown skin gone ashen, natural hair wrapped in a colorful scarf that couldn't hide how much she'd lost. But her eyes lit up when Zara entered. "Baby girl, you didn't have to come. You should be at work." "They gave me the morning off." Another lie. She'd called in sick, which meant losing the shift and probably getting written up. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck carrying smaller trucks." Her mother's laugh turned into a cough. "But Dr. Ramirez says the treatment is working. Tumors are shrinking. I just need to keep going." $23,000 every 8 weeks. For how long? 6 months? A year? Forever? The math was impossible, the future a wall Zara couldn't see past. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rosa Martinez, an older woman she'd met last month doing a catering gig in Beverly Hills. Job opening, live-in housekeeper, wealthy family, good pay. Interested. Zara stared at the message. Live-in meant leaving Marcus alone, leaving her mother. But it also meant steady salary, room and board, money she could actually send home instead of spending on rent and food. She typed back, "Very interested. Send details." The response came instantly. An address in Beverly Hills. Interview today at 2 p.m. Dress neat, be polite. And Zara, these people are particular. Don't give them reasons to say no. Zara looked at her mother, sleeping now, oxygen mask fogging with each labored breath. At Marcus, scrolling his phone to hide how scared he was. At the invoice burning a hole in her pocket. She didn't have the luxury of pride anymore. At 1:30, Zara stood at the bus stop on 6th Street, wearing her only interview outfit. Black slacks with a carefully hidden patch in one knee, a white blouse she'd ironed 3 times, her father's old blazer that was too big in the shoulders. The November wind cut through the thin fabric. She'd already taken 2 buses and had 2 more to go. By the time she reached Beverly Hills, she'd have exactly 3 minutes to spare. The bus ride gave her too much time to think. Live-in housekeeper meant giving up her other jobs. It meant putting all her eggs in one basket with a family she'd never met. It meant trusting that they'd pay fairly, treat her decently, not fire her the moment she disappointed them. Every instinct screamed it was risky, but $23,000 every 8 weeks silenced every objection. The bus climbed into the hills, and Los Angeles transformed. Graffitied liquor stores gave way to art galleries. Apartment buildings became mansions. Even the air smelled different, jasmine and money instead of exhaust and desperation. The Kim estate sat at the end of a gated cul-de-sac, hidden behind 12-foot walls and security cameras. Zara pressed the intercom button with a hand that wanted to shake but didn't. "Zara Kim, I have an interview at 2. The gates opened silently, revealing a curved driveway lined with manicured hedges and Japanese maples. The mansion itself was Mediterranean style, cream stucco, terracotta tiles, arched windows, balconies dripping with bougainvillea. A fountain in the center courtyard featured a bronze dragon, water cascading from its open mouth into a koi pond. This wasn't wealth. This was empire. Zara's worn sneakers felt obscene against the cobblestone drive. She was acutely aware of every patch, every loose thread, every mark that screamed she didn't belong here. Rosa answered the door before Zara could ring. The older woman looked exactly as she had at the catering gig, silver-streaked black hair in a neat bun, kind eyes, sensible shoes. "Zara, come in, come in. You're right on time." The interior stole Zara's breath. White marble floors reflected an enormous crystal chandelier that probably cost more than her mother's entire medical bill. A curved double staircase swept upward to a second-floor gallery. Original art, real art, not prints, lined the walls in gilt frames. Through an archway, she glimpsed a living room the size of a basketball court, furnished with Italian leather and silk. "Overwhelming, isn't it?" Rosa smiled gently. "Took me 6 months to stop feeling like I'd break something just by breathing. You get used to it. Come, let me show you the kitchen first." They walked through hallways lined with more art, more marble, more evidence of wealth so vast it felt abstract. The kitchen made Zara's heart ache with longing. It was a chef's dream: sub-zero refrigerator, Le Cornu range, endless granite counters, copper pots hanging from a ceiling rack, a pantry the size of her entire apartment. Professional-grade equipment, perfectly maintained, barely used. "Mr. Kim doesn't eat home often," Rosa explained. "He runs several businesses that keep him out late. But when he does dine in, he expects perfection. You said in your text you have restaurant experience? 3 years at Chez Louis, prep and pastry. 2 years catering before that. I trained at the Culinary Institute before." Zara stopped, before her father died and the money ran out. "Before I had to take a break for family." Rosa's expression was understanding. "This position is technically housekeeper, but the primary focus is kitchen management, cooking, meal planning, maintaining the pantry, supervising the occasional catering when Mr. Kim entertains. The other staff, Jenny, Miguel, and I handle the rest of the house. Salary is $3,000 a month plus room board and basic medical coverage. $3,000 plus no rent or food meant every penny could go to her mother's treatment. It meant Marcus fed, lights staying on, maybe even saving for emergencies. That's very generous." "Mr. Kim pays well for competence and discretion." Rosa's voice dropped slightly. "But I should warn you, Mrs. Park manages the household. She's Mr. Kim's sister-in-law and she has very high standards. The interview depends entirely on her approval." The warning was clear in Rosa's tone, in the careful way she chose her words. Zara had worked enough wealthy households to read between lines. "I understand. I can handle demanding employers." "I hope so." Rosa glanced at the clock. "She should be back any—" Heels clicked across marble like gunshots. Sharp, precise, expensive. The woman who entered the kitchen was stunning in the way of people who'd turned beauty into a weapon, tall, maybe 5'9", with honey blonde hair in a sleek low ponytail, and features that suggested good genes and better cosmetic work. She wore a cream cashmere sweater and tailored slacks that probably cost more than Zara made in a month. Diamond studs glittered in her ears. At 34, she moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Rosa. Her voice was pure American, cultured, used to immediate obedience. The gardener trimmed the roses too short. Fire him and find someone who understands basic horticulture. Then her eyes landed on Zara and went cold, assessing. Who is this? Mrs. Park, this is Zara Kim. She's here for the housekeeper position. Excellent experience. Kim? One perfectly shaped eyebrow rose. Relation to Mr. Kim? Zara stood straighter. No, ma'am. It's a common surname. My father was Korean American. Was. Mrs. Park let the word hang, implying everything about failure and loss. And your mother? African American, ma'am, still living, though she's ill. Mrs. Park circled slowly, a predator evaluating prey. How diverse. Tell me, Zara, what makes you think you're qualified to work in a household like this? I have 3 years professional kitchen experience at a Michelin-starred restaurant, ma'am. I trained formally at the Culinary Institute. I understand the standards required. The Culinary Institute. Mrs. Park's smile was sharp as broken glass. Yet here you are applying to be a housekeeper. What happened? Couldn't cut it in a real kitchen? The insult landed like a slap. Zara forced her voice to stay level. My father passed away. I left to support my family, but I've continued learning and working, and I'm very good at what I do. You look desperate. Mrs. Park stopped in front of her, close enough that Zara could smell her perfume, something French and suffocating. You need this job badly, don't you? Mother ill, family struggling, you'd do anything to keep it. It wasn't a question. Zara met her eyes despite every instinct screaming to look away. I need work, yes, but I'll earn my place through competence, not desperation. For a moment something flickered in Mrs. Park's expression. Surprise, maybe respect, quickly buried under disdain. We'll see. You understand this is a live-in position. You'd be available whenever needed, no set hours, no complaints. I understand. And you understand your place in this household. You'd be staff. Invisible unless needed. No familiarity with Mr. Kim or his guests. You cook, you clean, you stay out of sight. Clear? Perfectly clear, ma'am. Mrs. Park turned to Rosa. Have her prepare something. If she can actually cook, we'll discuss terms. What would you like me to make? Zara asked. Mrs. Park's smile turned cruel. Surprise me. You have 30 minutes. Use whatever you find in the pantry. Impress me or don't bother waiting for the bus back. Rosa gave Zara an apologetic look as Mrs. Park left, heels clicking away. I'm sorry. She's always difficult with new staff. What are you going to make? Zara was already opening the refrigerator, mind racing. 30 minutes meant nothing elaborate, but Mrs. Park expected failure, was hoping for it, which meant Zara needed to deliver something technically perfect and subtly insulting. She found eggs, butter, cream, fresh herbs, expensive cheese. In the pantry, artisan bread and truffle oil. Inspiration struck. Soufflé, Gruyere and herbs, with truffle toast points. Rosa's eyes widened. That's ambitious for 30 minutes. I know, start timing. Zara moved through the kitchen like she'd been born in it. Separated eggs with one hand while preheating the oven with the other. Minced chives and tarragon from the herb garden she'd spotted through the window. Made a roux, incorporated hot cream. Folded in whipped egg whites with the gentle touch that made soufflés rise instead of collapse. Buttered ramekins, filled them precisely. Slid them into the oven at the 20-minute mark. Used the remaining time to make perfect toast points. Brush them with truffle oil. Arrange them on a plate that would photograph beautifully. The soufflés emerged at exactly 29 minutes. Golden, risen 2 inches above the rims. Perfect. She plated one immediately, garnished with fresh herbs, and called Rosa. Ready. Mrs. Park returned, clearly expecting disaster. Her expression when she saw the soufflé, perfectly risen, professionally plated, restaurant quality, was almost worth the degradation. Almost. She cut into it with a fork. The interior was creamy, just set, textbook perfect. She took a bite, chewed slowly. Her face remained neutral, but Zara caught the moment her eyes widened slightly. "It's acceptable, Mrs. Park said finally. "The texture is correct. The flavors are balanced." She took another bite despite herself. "Rosa, prepare the employment paperwork. She starts tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. sharp." Zara's heart leapt, but she kept her expression professional. "Thank you, ma'am." "Don't thank me yet." Mrs. Park set down her fork, leaving half the souffle uneaten. A power play. "You'll earn every penny here. I expect perfection, punctuality, and absolute discretion. Disappoint me once and you're gone, understand?" "Yes, ma'am." After Mrs. Park left, Rosa pulled Zara into a quick hug. "You did it. That souffle was gorgeous. Will she really fire me for one mistake?" Rosa's smile faded. "She'll try, but Zara, Mr. Kim has final say on all staff. If you impress him, Mrs. Park's threats mean nothing. Just be patient, work hard, and wait for your chance." That night, riding the bus back to Echo Park with an employment contract in her bag, Zara allowed herself one moment of hope. $3,000 a month, room and board, her mother's treatment covered, Marcus safe. Maybe finally they'd survive. She didn't let herself think about Mrs. Park's cruelty, or the massive mansion that felt more like a beautiful cage, or the mysterious Mr. Kim she hadn't even met. One problem at a time. First, survive. Everything else could wait. Zara moved into the Kim estate the next morning with everything she owned in 2 duffel bags. Her room was small but clean. Single bed, dresser, desk, window overlooking the garden. To someone who'd been sleeping on a couch for 2 years, it felt like luxury. She unpacked quickly, called Marcus to make sure he understood the emergency numbers and how to heat up the meals she'd prepped, then reported to the kitchen at exactly 6 a.m. Mrs. Park was waiting, clipboard in hand, lips pressed into a thin line. "Your uniform, black dress, white apron, hair back, minimal jewelry. You'll prepare my breakfast at 7 every morning. 2 poached eggs, whites firm but yolks liquid, whole grain toast cut diagonally, coffee at 185 degrees, not 1 degree hotter or cooler. Serve in the breakfast room at 7:15 precisely." The instructions were designed to be impossible. Zara simply nodded. "Yes, ma'am." That first breakfast, Zara delivered poached eggs that were textbook perfect, toast cut with a ruler's precision, coffee at exactly 185 degrees, verified with a thermometer. Mrs. Park cut into the eggs, watched the yolk run golden across the plate, and set down her fork. "The toast is too dark. Remake it." Zara remade it. Mrs. Park took 1 bite. "Now it's too light. Are you incapable of following simple instructions?" "I'll get it right, ma'am." Zara made it a 3rd time, exactly the same as the second. Mrs. Park examined it, took a small bite, and nodded. "Acceptable, barely. Don't let this become a pattern." It was a game Zara recognized from every wealthy household she'd worked. The employer establishes dominance through impossible standards, and the employee learns their place through repeated humiliation. She'd survived worse. She could survive this. The rest of that first week was brutal. Mrs. Park found fault with everything: floors not clean enough despite gleaming marble, silver not polished enough despite Zara's reflection visible in every piece, meals too salty or too bland or too something. Each criticism was delivered loudly, in front of Rosa, Jenny, and Miguel, ensuring maximum humiliation. Zara would apologize, redo the work, and endure the next round. But she poured herself into the cooking. The kitchen became her sanctuary, the one place where skill mattered more than Mrs. Park's sadism. She prepared elaborate meals Mrs. Park barely touched, experimenting with techniques and flavors, keeping her skills sharp. Rosa would sneak her the leftovers, which Zara rationed carefully, sending most home to Marcus despite her own constant hunger. Kim Tae-jin remained a ghost. She'd hear his car late at night, see evidence of his presence, a coffee cup in the sink, a jacket over a chair, but never the man himself. Mrs. Park explained he ran import-export businesses throughout Asia and North America, traveled constantly, kept irregular hours. The few times Zara glimpsed him through windows or doorways, he was always on the phone, always moving, radiating controlled intensity. On her 10th day, everything shifted. It was 8 p.m., and Zara was preparing Mrs. Park's dinner: seared duck breast with cherry gastrique, roasted root vegetables, wild rice. She'd just plated it when she felt the air change, that inexplicable awareness of being watched. She turned. Tae-jin stood in the kitchen doorway. He was taller than she'd realized from distant glimpses, 6'3" easily, with shoulders that strained his charcoal suit jacket. 32 years old, Korean, with black hair swept back from a face of sharp angles and harder edges. A thin scar ran along his left cheekbone. His eyes were so dark they looked black, and they were currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You're the new chef." His voice was deep, accent slight, every word precisely chosen. "Housekeeper, sir, but yes, I cook." He moved closer with a predator's grace, silent despite expensive Italian shoes. His gaze dropped to the plated duck, studied it with the focus most people reserved for contracts. "Who's this for?" "Mrs. Park, sir. Dinner at 8:30. Make me one. Dining room, 15 minutes. It wasn't a request. "Yes, sir." He left as silently as he'd arrived. Zara's hands were shaking. From adrenaline or something more dangerous, she wasn't sure. She prepared a second plate with extra care, aware this was a test that mattered far more than Mrs. Park's breakfast games. 14 minutes later, she carried the duck into the formal dining room. The space could seat 20, but Tae-jin sat alone at the head of the table, jacket off, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms marked with scars. He was reading something on his phone, but set it down as she approached. "Sit." He gestured to the chair at his right hand. "Sir, I don't think... I'm not asking the help for permission. I'm telling you to sit." The casual cruelty of the help stung, but Zara recognized a test when she heard one. She sat. Tae-jin cut into the duck. The knife slid through perfectly seared skin to reveal rose-pink meat. He took a bite, chewed slowly, expression unreadable. Zara's heart hammered against her ribs. Perfect sear, cooked to precise medium rare. The gastrique balances the fat without overwhelming it. He took another bite, eyes never leaving hers. "This is restaurant-quality work. You're wasted doing Mrs. Park's breakfasts." Relief and pride flooded through her. "Thank you, sir. Where did you train? And don't give me the abbreviated version you gave Mrs. Park." There was something in his tone, not kindness exactly, but genuine interest. "Culinary Institute of America, 18 months. I was on track for the full degree when my father died. Heart attack, no warning, massive debt we didn't know about. I left school, came back to LA and started working every kitchen that would hire me. Che Louis took me on as prep, then pastry, then line cook. I was there 3 years before." She hesitated. "Before you needed live-in work for a sick mother." His expression didn't change. "Rosa told me. I ask about all new staff. I'll earn my place here, I promise." "You already did, with this." He gestured at the duck. "From now on, you cook for me when I'm home, not Mrs. Park. My meals, my schedule. I eat at 8 when I'm here. Different cuisine every night, surprise me." It was a command that felt like a gift. "I'd be honored." "Don't be honored, just be excellent." He returned to eating, but added almost casually, "And if Mrs. Park gives you trouble about this arrangement, you tell Rosa. Rosa tells me. I don't tolerate my staff being mistreated." The careful phrasing wasn't lost on Zara. He knew exactly how Mrs. Park had been treating her. "Thank you, sir. Tae-jin, when we're alone, call me Tae-jin." That felt more dangerous than any of Mrs. Park's cruelty. "Yes, sir. I mean, Tae-jin." His mouth curved slightly, the first hint of a smile she'd seen. "Fast learner. Good. Now tell me what you'd make with these ingredients." He listed items from the pantry, testing her knowledge, her creativity, her ability to think on her feet. For 45 minutes they talked food and technique, and Zara felt herself relax despite the absurdity, sitting in a billionaire's dining room, discussing the proper ratio of acid to fat in emulsions, with a man who probably killed people for a living. When he finally dismissed her, Zara floated back to the kitchen on a cloud of validation and dangerous possibility. Mrs. Park was waiting, fury radiating from every perfect pore. "What were you doing in the dining room?" "Mr. Kim asked me to prepare his dinner, and you thought it appropriate to dine with him. He asked me to sit, I couldn't refuse." Mrs. Park stepped close, perfume suffocating. "Let me be very clear. Zara, you are the help. You cook, you clean, you stay invisible." Mr. Kim was being polite, nothing more. "Whatever little fantasy you're entertaining about catching his attention, abandon it immediately. He's not interested in girls like you." The unspoken black girls hung in the air between them. Zara forced her voice steady. "I understand, ma'am. I doubt that, but you'll learn." Mrs. Park's smile was poison, one way or another. Over the next week, Zara learned that Mrs. Park's threats weren't empty. Small things started going wrong. Ingredients Zara needed would disappear from the pantry. The kitchen thermostat malfunctioned constantly, freezing cold 1 hour, sweltering the next. Her alarm clock stopped working, making her late twice, earning written warnings. The uniform dress developed a mysterious tear that Mrs. Park claimed was rough handling, and docked $50 from Zara's first paycheck for replacement. But the dinners with Tae-jin became Zara's lifeline. He was home 4 nights that week, and each time he expected something different. Monday, Italian handmade pasta with a bolognese that had simmered for hours. Tuesday, Japanese. Perfect sushi rice and pristinely cut sashimi. Wednesday, French duck confit that fell off the bone. Thursday, Korean, bibimbap, with 8 traditional side dishes that had taken Zara 3 days to prepare properly. And each night, he asked her to sit. They'd talk, about food at first, but gradually expanding to books, music, the differences between Los Angeles and Seoul, the immigrant experience, loss and survival. He told her about building his business from nothing after arriving in America at 16, with fake papers and raw determination. She told him about her father's death, the crushing debt, the impossible choice between school and family. The boundaries between employer and employee blurred. Zara caught him watching her sometimes, with an expression she couldn't read. Curiosity mixed with something hungrier, more dangerous. She found herself thinking about him at odd hours, wondering where he was, if he was safe, when he'd be home. Once, when she'd burned her hand on a hot pan, he'd grabbed her wrist and dragged her to the sink, running cold water over the injury with hands surprisingly gentle. Their eyes had met, and for one breathless moment, Zara thought he might kiss her. Instead, he'd bandaged her hand carefully and left without a word. Rosa noticed, of course. "You're playing with fire, Mika. I'm just cooking for him. You're falling for him and he's falling for you. I've worked for Mr. Kim 6 years. I've never seen him look at anyone like that, not even his late wife." The words sent equal parts hope and terror through Zara's chest. "It doesn't matter. I'm his employee. He's—" She stopped, not wanting to say the rest out loud. "A criminal?" Rosa's expression was gentle. "Yes, but he's also a man who protects the people he considers his. And right now, he considers you his." That protection was tested 3 weeks into Zara's employment. Tuesday afternoon, exhausted after deep cleaning the library, Zara was in the pantry taking inventory when her hand slipped, reaching for mushrooms on the top shelf. The glass container tumbled down, shattering across the floor, expensive Italian porcini scattering everywhere. "How clumsy," Mrs. Park's voice, dripping satisfaction. Zara spun. Mrs. Park stood in the doorway, backlit, arms crossed, radiating cold triumph. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Park. I'll clean this immediately. You'll do more than that. Those were Mr. Kim's personal porcini, imported from Alba. $400. You're paying for them." $400 was more than a week's salary. It was an accident. "I can replace them for actual cost." "Are you arguing with me?" Mrs. Park's voice went ice cold. "You damage expensive property through carelessness and think you shouldn't face consequences. The cost is $400. Accounting will deduct it from your next paycheck." The injustice burned. But what could Zara do? Challenge Mrs. Park and risk everything? She swallowed the protest burning up her throat. "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Park crouched down, bringing her face level with Zara's, smile sharp with cruelty. "You know what I think? I think you're getting too comfortable here. Private dinners with Mr. Kim, special treatment, protection. It's made you careless. Let this be a reminder you're still just the help, and the help can be replaced." She left, heels clicking away victoriously. Zara knelt among scattered mushrooms and shattered glass, hands shaking with rage and humiliation. $400 meant her mother would miss part of her next treatment. Marcus wouldn't get new shoes for school. Everything she'd sacrificed rendered meaningless by Mrs. Park's petty cruelty. Rosa appeared minutes later, face sympathetic. "I heard. Mija, those mushrooms cost maybe $50, and they were sitting on a shelf too high for anyone to reach safely. She's been waiting for something like this. I can't prove that." "No, but Mr. Kim can. Let me tell him." Zara's pride screamed against accepting more help, more protection, more debt to a man who already had too much power over her life. "Not yet. Let me handle it." That night, Zara cooked with fury. Osso buco, veal shanks braised for hours until the meat fell off the bone, served over saffron risotto so creamy it was almost obscene. Angry cooking. The flavors were perfect because she needed them to be, needed to prove she was more than Mrs. Park's words, more than just the help. Tae-jin took one bite and set down his fork, eyes sharp. "What happened?" "Nothing." "You're lying. I can taste rage in this dish." His voice was soft but unyielding. "Tell me what happened, Zara." And suddenly she was exhausted, of lying, of protecting herself, of pretending she could handle everything alone. The story spilled out. The mushrooms, the excessive charge, Mrs. Park's cruelty and insinuations. By the end, tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Tae-jin's expression had gone carefully blank, the dangerous blankness Rosa had warned her about. $400 for mushrooms worth 50. Interesting mathematics. He pulled out his phone. "Minjun, I need you to pull household expense records for the last 6 months. Every charge Mrs. Park has submitted. Have it on my desk in an hour." He ended the call and looked at Zara. "You should have told me immediately. I didn't want to be more indebted, need more protection." His voice was sharp. "You're already under my protection whether you acknowledge it or not. The only question is whether you trust me enough to use it. I barely know you. You know I've never lied to you. You know I've kept every promise. You know I don't make empty gestures." He leaned forward slightly. "What you're afraid of isn't me. It's what accepting my protection means about what's happening between us." The accusation hung in the air, terrifyingly accurate. Zara forced herself to meet his eyes. "And what is happening between us?" For a long moment, Tae-jin just looked at her, something raw and almost vulnerable flickering across his face. Then he stood abruptly. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, Mrs. Park and I are having a conversation about her household management. You won't lose a penny." He left before she could respond. Zara sat alone, heart hammering, aware that something fundamental had shifted. The next morning, Zara woke to the sound of shouting. She crept toward the commotion, finding Tae-jin and Mrs. Park in his office, door cracked open. Minjun stood silently nearby, arms crossed. Tae-jin's right-hand man and enforcer, a former Korean soldier who'd followed him to America. Zara had seen him around the estate but never spoken to him. $7,000 in inflated charges over 6 months. Tae-jin's voice was cold silk. Charging staff for accidents that weren't their fault. Pocketing the difference. "Did you think I wouldn't audit you?" Those were legitimate household expenses. Mushrooms worth $50 charged at $400. A broken vase worth $200 charged at $800. Rosa's damaged uniform that cost $30 charged at $150. He let each number land like a blow. "You've been stealing from your own family. Worse, you've been stealing from staff who can't afford to lose a week's salary." Mrs. Park's voice rose, defensive. "I was maintaining standards. These people need to learn there are consequences. The only person learning consequences today is you." Tae-jin's tone dropped to something lethal. "You have 2 choices. Return every penny you've stolen from staff, apologize personally and follow my household rules without question, or pack your things and be out by nightfall. Choose now." Silence. Then Mrs. Park, voice shaking with rage. You're choosing her over family? Some black girl you've known 3 weeks? The slur hung in the air. Zara's blood went cold. I'm choosing competence and honesty over theft and racism. Each word was carefully enunciated. What's your choice, Mrs. Park? Another long pause. Then, through gritted teeth, I'll return the money. And follow your rules. And apologize to every staff member you've wronged, starting now. Zara barely had time to step back before the office door opened. Mrs. Park emerged, face flushed with humiliation and fury. Her eyes landed on Zara, and the hatred was absolute, promising future retribution. But her voice was perfectly controlled. Zara, I apologize for overcharging you. The money will be returned to your account today. The apology was acid, but Tae-jin was watching from his office doorway, and Mrs. Park had no choice. She turned and left, heels clicking rapidly away. Tae-jin caught Zara's eye, something unreadable in his expression. My office. Now. Inside, he gestured for her to sit. Minjun had already left, giving them privacy. Tae-jin leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Mrs. Park will retaliate, not openly because she knows I'm watching, but she'll find subtle ways to make your life difficult. I can handle it. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to. He paused, choosing his words carefully. There's something you should understand about Mrs. Park. She's not just my brother's wife. She's American-born, but she has connections. Business connections that my brother finds useful. Something in his tone made Zara's instincts prickle. What kind of connections? The kind I'm still investigating. His expression was carefully neutral. If you notice anything unusual, phone calls in languages she shouldn't speak, meetings with people who don't fit, anything that feels wrong, you tell me immediately. Understood? You think she's... Zara stopped, not wanting to voice it. I think she's more dangerous than she appears. And I think her hatred of you goes beyond racism. His eyes were intense, serious. Be careful, Zara. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't trust her for anything. And if she threatens you, you come to me immediately. The warning felt both protective and terrifying. What had Zara stumbled into? That night, lying in bed, Zara couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the conversation, Tae-jin's warnings, the hatred in Mrs. Park's eyes. For the first time, she wondered if the real danger in this house wasn't Mrs. Park's cruelty, but something far darker lurking beneath the surface. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You've made a powerful enemy. I hope he's worth it. No signature, no identifying information, but Zara knew exactly who'd sent it. She deleted the text and tried to sleep, aware that whatever protection Tae-jin offered came with a price she was only beginning to understand. The anonymous text marked a shift. Over the next week, Mrs. Park became eerily polite, surface-level courtesy masking something far more dangerous. She'd smile at Zara in hallways, ask about her mother's health with false concern, even compliment meals. It should have been relief. Instead, it felt like watching a snake coil before striking. But Zara had other concerns. Her relationship with Tae-jin was evolving into something neither of them could pretend was professional anymore. It started with small touches, his hand steadying her elbow when she stumbled, fingers brushing as he passed her a wineglass, the way he'd stand close enough in the kitchen that she could feel his body heat. Then the conversations deepened. He told her about his wife's death, the guilt of surviving when she hadn't, the loneliness of building an empire with no one to share it with. She told him about her father's funeral, how she'd held Marcus while he sobbed, how she sometimes woke up forgetting her father was gone, and the grief hit fresh every time. One night, after a particularly intense dinner conversation about loss and survival, Tae-jin reached across the table and took her hand. You're the first person in 3 years who's made me feel less alone. Zara's breath caught. Tae-jin, we can't... Can't what? Feel something real. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I know all the reasons this is complicated. I'm your employer. I'm in a world you want no part of. You need this job for your mother. But tell me you don't feel this. She couldn't, because she did feel it. The dangerous pull toward him, the way her heart raced when he entered a room, the growing certainty that Kim Tae-jin was becoming more than her protector. He was becoming necessary. "I feel it," she whispered, "and it terrifies me." "Good. Fear means you understand what's at stake." He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. "I won't push you, but I won't pretend this isn't happening either." That night, Zara lay awake, skin burning where he'd kissed her hand, aware she was falling for a man who could destroy her in a dozen different ways. 3 days later, Min-jun appeared in the kitchen while Zara was prepping lunch. The Korean man was usually silent, a dangerous shadow, but today he studied her with something like concern. "You know how to defend yourself?" Zara looked up, surprised. "I took a self-defense class once. Why?" "Not good enough." He set a card on the counter. "Gym in Koreatown. Tae-jin wants you trained properly. 3 times a week, starting tomorrow. I'll teach you myself." "Taught for what?" Min-jun's expression was grave. "For when protection isn't enough and you need to save yourself." The lessons started the next day. Min-jun was a brutal but effective teacher, ex-Korean Special Forces, who'd seen combat most people only experienced in nightmares. He taught Zara how to break holds, disable attackers, use everyday objects as weapons. He drilled her until muscle memory took over, until fear became fuel instead of paralysis. "Why are you doing this?" Zara asked after a particularly exhausting session. "Because Tae-jin cares about you, and people Tae-jin cares about become targets." Min-jun's voice was matter-of-fact. "If something happens, I need to know you can fight back." The warning should have terrified her. Instead, it crystallized something Zara had been avoiding. She wasn't just falling for Tae-jin. She was already in his world, already a target, whether she acknowledged it or not. That Friday night, everything changed. Tae-jin came home at 7, earlier than usual, tension radiating from every line of his body. "Cancel my dinner. I need to handle something." "Is everything all right?" He stopped, turned, really looked at her. Then, as if making a decision, he said, "Come with me. I want to show you something." Zara followed him to his private office, a room she'd never entered. He unlocked a hidden panel behind a bookshelf, revealing a wall of monitors showing security feeds. The mansion, several warehouses, what looked like a casino, other locations she didn't recognize. "This is my real business." His voice was carefully neutral, not import-export, this. Casinos, protection, investment opportunities for people banks won't touch. Some of it's legal, most isn't, and all of it makes me the kind of man your mother would warn you away from. Zara studied the monitors, seeing armed men, cash being counted, the architecture of organized crime laid bare. She should be horrified. Instead, she felt oddly calm. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I'm tired of lying to you. Because if this goes anywhere, you deserve to know exactly who I am." He moved closer. "I've killed people, Zara. Not many, not casually, but when necessary to protect what's mine. I've broken laws, bent rules, built an empire on violence and fear. If that's too much, if you need to leave, I'll understand, I'll even help you. But I won't lie to you anymore." Zara met his eyes, seeing the vulnerability beneath the confession, the fear that she'd reject him now that she knew the truth. "I already knew. Rosa told me weeks ago. I chose to stay anyway." Something fierce and possessive flashed across his face. "Why?" "Because you've never lied to me when it mattered. Because you protect people who have no other protection. Because—" She stopped, afraid to voice it. "Because?" He was very close now, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. "Because I'm falling for you," she whispered, "and I think you're falling for me too." He kissed her. It was nothing like she'd imagined, not gentle or tentative, but consuming, possessive, 3 weeks of denied wanting crashing through every barrier. His hands cupped her face, then slid into her hair, tilting her head for better access. She gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, drowning in sensation, his taste, his heat, the way he kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been suffocating. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Tae-jin rested his forehead against hers. "You're mine now. Understand that. I'll protect you, provide for you, kill for you if necessary, but you're mine." The possessiveness should have been a red flag. Instead, it ignited something primal in Zara's chest. "Then you're mine too. No more keeping me at arm's length. No more protecting me by pushing me away." His smile was dangerous, promising. Deal. That night marked a shift. Tae-jin didn't push for more physically, not yet. But the boundary was crossed. He'd kiss her goodnight now, long and deep, leaving her shaking. He'd find excuses to touch her throughout the day. Once, when Mrs. Park made a cutting remark at dinner, he pulled Zara onto his lap in full view of everyone, marking his territory unmistakably. Mrs. Park's expression had been murderous. 2 weeks later, Zara's world imploded. She was leaving her self-defense session with Min-jun, walking to her car in the gym parking lot, when a black van screeched to a stop beside her. The door opened. Strong hands grabbed her, yanked her inside, a cloth pressed over her mouth and nose, chemicals sweet, choking. She tried to fight, tried to remember Min-jun's training, but the drug was fast and brutal. Darkness swallowed her. Zara woke to agony. Her head throbbed. Her wrists were zip-tied behind her back, shoulders screaming from the unnatural angle. She was in a warehouse, concrete floors, rusted metal walls, the smell of oil and decay. A single bulb swung overhead, casting nauseating shadows. "She's awake." A male voice, accented, Italian. Her mind supplied distantly. A man appeared in her line of sight. Late 40s, expensive suit incongruous in the filthy warehouse, with cold blue eyes and a smile that promised pain. "Zara Kim, Kim Tae-jin's little pet. You've caused us considerable trouble." "Who are you?" Her voice came out hoarse. "Marco Vitale. I run certain business interests that conflict with your boyfriend's ambitions." He crouched in front of her. "Tae-jin has been expanding aggressively, taking our territory, our clients, our money. We've tried negotiating, he refuses. So now we negotiate through you." Terror crystallized into clarity. She was bait, leverage. "He won't give you what you want just because you took me." "Won't he?" Marco's smile widened. "Our sources say he's absolutely obsessed with you. Cancelled meetings to have dinner with you. Started a war with his own sister-in-law over you. Put you under Min-jun's protection, something he's only done for family. Oh yes, Zara, he'll give us everything to get you back. Our sources." The words triggered realization. "Mrs. Park. She told you." "Mrs. Park has been very helpful. 15 years she's been feeding us information on the Kim family operations. She married into the family specifically to spy for us, a long game that's finally paying off." He stood. "She wanted you gone because you were complicating her mission, but I saw opportunity. Why just remove you when we can use you?" Nausea rolled through Zara, partly the drugs, partly horror. Mrs. Park had betrayed them all. And Zara had been the catalyst for exposing a spy operation years in the making. "Tae-jin will kill you for this," she said quietly. "Perhaps. But first, he'll pay ransom, agree to our terms, withdraw from our territories. And if he doesn't cooperate—" Marco gestured to someone behind her. Pain exploded across Zara's face as someone struck her. She tasted blood. "We make it very clear what happens to people he cares about." The beating was methodical, designed to hurt without causing permanent damage. They needed her alive, functional enough to scream on camera. Ribs, stomach, face, always careful to avoid anything fatal. Between blows, Marco would ask questions about Tae-jin's security, his routines, his weaknesses. Zara said nothing, just endured, until pain became a distant thing and she floated somewhere above her body. Eventually Marco sighed. "Stubborn. Like him. We'll try again tomorrow. Let her think about cooperation." They left her zip-tied on the concrete, bleeding and broken. Darkness closed in and Zara let it take her. She woke to someone whispering her name. Her eyes cracked open, every movement agony. A woman stood over her, young, maybe 20, with terrified eyes. "I'm Maria. I clean here at night. I'll help you, but we must be quick." "Why?" Zara's voice was barely audible. Because my brother works for Mr. Kim. He's a good man. These people, she gestured at the warehouse, they're animals. Maria cut the zip ties with a box cutter, helped Zara stand on shaking legs. The world spun violently, but Zara forced herself to move. Maria led her through shadows, avoiding cameras and guards, to a rusted door hidden behind stacked pallets. This leads to an alley. Go left, 3 blocks. There's a bus stop. Can you make it? Zara nodded, though she wasn't sure. Thank you. Tell your brother. Tell Min-jun that Marco Vitale is working with Mrs. Park. She's the spy. Maria's eyes widened, but she nodded. Go, quickly. Zara stumbled into the night, every breath pain, vision swimming. She made it 1 block before her legs gave out. She collapsed against a wall in a dark alley in Koreatown, tasting blood, aware she was going into shock. Her phone, they'd taken her phone, but there in the gutter, a discarded burner phone, cracked screen still glowing. Zara grabbed it with shaking hands, dialed the 1 number she'd memorized. Tae-jin answered on the first ring. Who is this? It's me, her voice broke. Tae-jin, I'm Zara. Where are you? His voice was controlled terror. Koreatown, alley behind. She looked up, trying to read street signs through blurred vision. Behind a restaurant, Korean sign. I can't. Stay on the line. Don't move. I'm tracking this phone. She heard him shouting orders, engines starting. Who took you? Marco Vitale, Italian mob. He's working with Mrs. Park. She's been spying for 15 years. Tae-jin, I'm sorry. I tried not to. Don't apologize. Don't you dare apologize. Just stay with me. Keep talking. She tried, but shock and blood loss were dragging her under. The last thing she heard before darkness claimed her was Tae-jin's voice, raw with fear, saying her name over and over like a prayer. Zara woke in a hospital room she didn't recognize. Private, expensive, with medical equipment that beeped softly. Tae-jin sat beside the bed, holding her hand, looking like he hadn't slept in days. When her eyes opened, his expression transformed from anguish to relief so profound it was painful to witness. You're awake. Thank God. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck. Her voice was raspy, throat raw. How long? 36 hours. You had internal bleeding, 3 cracked ribs, a concussion. The doctor said you're lucky to be alive. His voice fractured slightly. When I found you in that alley, bleeding and unconscious, I'm okay, I'm here. She squeezed his hand. Mrs. Park, did you... She's gone. Ran when she realized you'd escaped. But we'll find her. His expression went cold. And when we do, she'll wish I'd killed her quickly. What about Marco Vitale? Being handled. I've called in every favor, activated every alliance, declared open war. The Italians took something precious from me. I'll make them pay in blood. He said it matter-of-factly, a promise as certain as sunrise. A nurse entered, checked Zara's vitals, adjusted her IV. When she left, Tae-jin leaned close. There's something else, something the doctor found. Dread coiled in Zara's stomach. What? You're pregnant. About 6 weeks. The world stopped. Pregnant. 6 weeks ago was that first night they'd kissed, and the nights after when kissing had become more, when she'd let him claim her completely in his darkened bedroom, both of them desperate and wanting. Are you sure? They ran tests. You're pregnant, Zara. With my child. She searched his face for anger, rejection, fear, found only fierce protectiveness and something that looked like wonder. What do? We protect you both. He stood, paced, energy barely contained. This changes everything. You can't go back to the mansion. It's compromised. You'll stay at a secure location until this is over. Min-jun will guard you personally. And after we eliminate the threat... He turned, eyes intense. Marry me. What? Marry me. Not because of the baby, though that's part of it. Because I love you, because I've loved you since you made me that first duck and sat across from me like you weren't terrified. Because you're the strongest person I've ever met. And I want to spend my life protecting you, providing for you, building something better with you. He returned to her bedside, took her hand. I know it's fast. I know I'm asking you to accept a life most people would run from, but I'm asking anyway. Marry me, Zara." Tears burned her eyes. "I'm pregnant with a mobster's baby, recovering from being tortured, and you're proposing in a hospital room. This is insane." "Completely insane," he agreed, mouth curving slightly. "Say yes anyway." And because she loved him, recklessly, dangerously, with a certainty that defied logic, she did. "Yes, I'll marry you." His kiss was gentle, careful of her injuries, but no less possessive. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright with emotions he rarely showed. "I'll take care of everything. The wedding, your mother's treatment, Marcus's education, security. You won't want for anything. I just want you to be safe." Zara whispered, "Promise me you'll be careful." "I promise." A lie. They both knew it. Tae-jin was about to start a war, and men didn't survive wars by being careful. But for now, in this moment, Zara let herself believe the lie. Let herself imagine a future where they survived this, where their baby grew up safe, where love was enough to conquer the darkness surrounding them. Reality would intrude soon enough. 3 weeks later, Zara was in a Malibu safe house that felt more like a gilded cage. The beachfront property had bulletproof windows and guards rotating every 8 hours. Her mother was there too, receiving treatments that were finally working. Tumors shrinking, color returning, strength rebuilding. Marcus visited on weekends, and Zara, 7 months pregnant with twins who kicked constantly, waited for news that never came fast enough. Tae-jin appeared after midnight most nights, exhausted and bloodied. The war with the Italians had escalated. Warehouses burning, casinos firebombed, bodies piling up on both sides. He'd clean his guns at her kitchen table, wash blood from his hands, then come to bed and hold her like she was the only thing keeping him human. "How much longer?" she asked one night, watching him reload a clip with practiced efficiency. "Soon." Vitale's desperate. Desperate men make fatal mistakes. He moved to where she sat, knelt, pressed his hands to her swollen belly. The twins kicked against his palms. "They're strong, like you. They need you alive. Promise me you'll be careful." He kissed her instead of answering, and she knew the promise wasn't his to make. The call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Wednesday. Min-jun burst into her room, face grim. Tae-jin walked into a trap. Vitale lured him to the Red Dragon Casino with fake intel on Mrs. Park. "The building's on fire, half his men are down and he's pinned. I'm going in." "I'm coming with you." Zara struggled out of bed despite her belly. "You're 7 months pregnant." With his children who need a father. A contraction hit, the Braxton Hicks that had plagued her for days. She breathed through it. "Either take me or I drive myself." Min-jun's jaw clenched. "If anything happens to you, he'll kill me." "If anything happens to him, I'll kill you first." They drove in tense silence, Min-jun handling the armored SUV like a weapon. Zara sat wearing a Kevlar vest that barely fit over her belly, contractions coming every 10 minutes. "Just Braxton Hicks," she told herself, "not real labor, not now." But when another contraction hit, stronger and longer, and her water broke soaking the seat, she knew the twins had other plans. "Min-jun—" "Don't say it." "I'm in labor." He swore viciously in Korean. "Hospital's 20 minutes. Tae-jin's dying now, we get him first. Babies can wait." She breathed through another contraction. "Drive." The Red Dragon Casino was in central Koreatown, flames pouring from upper windows, smoke billowing black against the night sky. Min-jun parked 2 blocks away. "Stay in the car, lock the doors. If I'm not back in 15 minutes with him, drive yourself to the hospital." He disappeared into smoke and chaos. Zara sat alone, contractions every 4 minutes now, watching the clock. 8 minutes, 10, 12, sirens approaching, gunshots echoing. At 14 minutes, the back door opened. Min-jun appeared supporting Tae-jin, both covered in blood and soot. Tae-jin's left side was soaked red, but his eyes were open, aware. "Zara, why are you—" He saw her face, the wet seat, understood. "No, not now. In labor." "Yes," she gasped through a contraction. "Drive, Min-jun. Now." They screamed away as police descended on the casino. The 30-minute drive to Dr. Reyes's underground clinic was agony, contractions every 2 minutes. Tae-jin bleeding in the back seat, both of them fighting to stay conscious. "Talk to me," Tae-jin said through gritted teeth, reaching forward to grip her hand. "Tell me about the nursery. What colors did you pick?" "Cream and sage green," Zara gasped, "with dragons painted on the walls, because they're yours. Our little dragons." Another contraction stole her breath. "They're ours, half you." "The strongest half." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not leaving you, not today. We survive this together." Dr. Reyes took one look at them and snapped into action. Operating room for him, delivery room for her. "No." Zara's voice was iron. "He stays with me, or I don't push." "You're fully dilated, you don't have a choice. Then treat him in my room. Both or neither." "Doctor." Reyes looked at Tae-jin, who nodded despite his pallor. "What she wants. Always." They set up triage in the delivery room, nurses working on Tae-jin's gunshot wound 3 feet from where Zara lay in stirrups, ready to push. The absurdity would have been funny if everything didn't hurt so much. "Next contraction, you push," Dr. Reyes commanded. Zara pushed and pushed. 47 minutes of tearing pain, while Tae-jin lay on a gurney beside her, bleeding but conscious, talking her through every contraction despite his own agony. "One more push," Dr. Reyes said. "The girl's crowning." Zara pushed with everything she had. Her daughter emerged, screaming, perfect, impossibly tiny. "Doctor." Reyes placed her on Zara's chest for one precious moment, before handing her to a nurse. "The boy's coming, another push." 7 minutes later, her son was born, smaller, but equally furious. Dr. Reyes placed both babies on Zara's chest, warm and wet and miraculous. "Healthy. Perfect. Congratulations." Zara looked at her children, dark hair, brown skin, their father's features mixing with hers, and sobbed. They'd survived, all of them. "Can I?" Tae-jin tried to sit up, failed. Nurses wheeled his gurney directly against her bed. He reached out with shaking hands, touched each tiny head with infinite gentleness. "They're perfect, you're perfect, I love you. Love you too. Now let them save you so you can hold them properly." Surgery took 3 hours. The bullet had missed vital organs but caused significant damage. Zara dozed with the twins. Soo-jin and Daniel she'd already decided, while Min-jun stood guard and called in the victory. Vitale was dead, burned in the casino. His organization had surrendered, and Mrs. Park had been found in Mexico trying to flee to Italy. She wouldn't be fleeing anywhere anymore. When Tae-jin woke, the first thing he said was, "The babies." Min-jun wheeled in a bassinet with 2 tiny bundles. Tae-jin struggled upright despite his injuries, reaching for them with trembling hands. Rosa helped him position one in each arm. He looked down at his children and his expression shattered, all control breaking apart, leaving only raw love. "Hi," he whispered. "I'm your dad. I know I'm not perfect, but I promise I'll try to be worthy of you." 6 weeks later, they married on the beach under a full moon. Zara wore white silk embroidered with gold dragons, barefoot in sand, walking toward Tae-jin, who waited in a black suit with the top button undone. Min-jun stood as best man. Rosa held the twins and cried. Zara's mother, healthy enough to walk now, beamed from the front row. Marcus gave his sister away with teenage solemnity. The ceremony was part Korean tradition, part mafia ritual. An old priest spoke in 2 languages, mixing blessings with warnings. But the real vows came when Tae-jin pulled out a tattoo gun. "In my world, marriage is marked in blood and ink, permanent, irrevocable." He took Zara's wrist, cleaned the skin, and carefully tattooed his name in elegant Korean characters, "Mine forever." Then Zara took the gun and tattooed her name on his wrist, each letter deliberate and permanent, "Mine forever." They exchanged rings, simple white gold engraved with their wedding date. Tae-jin's vows were fierce promises of protection, provision, partnership. Zara's vows were equally strong, to stand beside him as equal, to raise their children with love and strength, to be his home in darkness. When the priest pronounced them married and Tae-jin kissed her, the ocean roared approval, and their children cried and everyone cheered. It was messy and perfect and exactly right, At the reception, they cut cake. Expensive. Perfect. Everything that stale pantry cake wasn't. Tae-jin fed her a bite, eyes dark with memory. Never hungry again, that's my vow. Never alone again, that's mine. Later, he pulled her aside to the water's edge. I'm restructuring the empire, going legitimate where possible. I want to build something our children can inherit without shame. Will you help me? Half that empire is mine now, Zara said firmly. So yes, we build it together. 5 years later, Zara stood in their Malibu kitchen, a new house, bigger, filled with light and laughter. The twins were 5, wild and brilliant. Their youngest daughter, 3-year-old Mina, played at her feet. In the next room, Tae-jin managed an empire now 40% legitimate. Real estate, restaurants, legal imports. Zara's own restaurant, Zara's Grace, had 3 Michelin stars. Her mother was cancer-free. Marcus was at UCLA pre-med. They'd survived everything and built something beautiful from the ashes. Mama, Sujin ran in. Can we have cake after dinner? If you finish your homework. Already done. The twins ran off to tell their father. Tae-jin appeared moments later, Mina on his hip, pressing a kiss to Zara's temple. Smells amazing. You're amazing. You're biased. But she was smiling as she caught his hand, the one with her name tattooed on his wrist, and kissed it gently. That night, after dinner and bedtime stories, they stood on their balcony overlooking the Pacific. His arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder, comfortable silence between them. Do you ever regret it? He asked. This life? Everything it cost? Zara thought about the desperate girl eating stale cake in a pantry, starving and terrified. Thought about everything since, the pain and violence, but also the love and family and unexpected joy. Never you? Never. You saved me, Zara. Gave me a reason to be better. He turned her in his arms. I'd choose you every single time. She kissed him, tasting home and forever. Remember when we met? You walked into that kitchen like you owned the world. I did own the world. Just didn't know I needed you to make it worth keeping. He smiled. I love you. More than empire. More than life. Love you too. Impossibly. Completely. Behind them, their children's laughter echoed. The ocean whispered. The moon shone. And in this beautiful life built from desperation and darkness and impossible love, Zara knew with absolute certainty she'd survived everything to arrive exactly here, where she was loved, protected, home, forever.